stepping up to run for office and represent us. We appreciate that. Organize this event. And I also want to thank all of you, all of the constituents, all the people who are here, who are being active participants in our democracy, which is what's going to save us. Tonight's screening, if you want to share that, you can find it on our page. You can also go to social media and use hashtags Indivisible OH12, hashtag OH12, or hashtag OH12 forum. And I want to say hello to everyone who's a member of our Indivisible OH12 group. Can you raise your hand if you're a member of the group? Awesome. Thank you so much. And on your programs, if you are not a member, you will have, there's some information there about how to join. Raise your hand if you're a member of an OH12 subgroup. Okay, great. So it looks like we have a little more work to do there. Our subgroups are our powerhouses, our engines that are going to turn us from just a group of people who are doing political activism to groups that are really going to change the face of our democracy through helping to elect people, as individuals, getting behind candidates, helping to elect them. And one of our people who was greeting you as you came in is Barb Fleer, and she is our subgroup queen. And if you are interested in joining a subgroup, speak to Barb. When she comes in, I'm going to have her stand up away so you know who to ask about joining a subgroup, and she can tell you which groups are operating in your part of our far-flung district. I also wanted to say we are supporting Issue 1. We worked very hard for the Fair District. Can Ann Isaac stand up? Are you here? And she's outside. All the busy people are outside. And if you haven't signed the Fair District's proposal, talk to Ann, and she will get you sorted out. If you are wanting to help us continue to collect signatures and educate people about Issue 1, talk to Ann, because we have many opportunities, including this coming week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to be at the Arnold. There's Ann there. She can help you sign up for things, or if you need to sign a petition, she's there. We're going to be at the Arnold with Arnold Schwarzenegger's not only permission, but encouragement to be there, educating people about Issue 1, which I just heard this evening that John Kasich is no longer supporting. Very, 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 very shocking and surprising, so we'll cross that bridge. I'm going to be brief here. We have a long evening ahead. But so sign that petition if you haven't. Sign up to get involved. I also want to say that we, OH12 Indivisible is part of a larger statewide group called OPAL, and we're doing a lot of stuff about voter registration, voter education, and reaching out to infrequent voters in the run-up to the primary. If you are interested in doing voter registration activities in the next month, I'm going to be leading that. Come speak to me, or if you signed up and when you signed in, I will be contacting you with some information about opportunities to do voter registration in the next few weeks. Tonight, we have cards for you to write your questions. Obviously, we won't have time to answer all of them, but we're going to group them by topic and make sure that everything is covered to the best of our ability. We're also writing postcards to Senator Portman about DACA, and there's a table in the corner where you can get postcards, and we'll collect them afterwards. And usually we deliver them, and I'd love it if I had a volunteer to bring those postcards to Senator Portman. Who wants to bring those postcards to Senator Portman? I'll go with you. Okay, good. Awesome. We are going to go, and we're going to deliver those cards. 3 of us. Mary Jane, Lindy, and I are going to go. So what I'm encouraging you, the candidates are here, their staff are here. I'm encouraging you to find a candidate that you like tonight and get involved with their campaign. Sign up, volunteer, donate, hold a fundraiser, go canvassing, knock on doors, get to know them, talk to your friends about them. This is an active thing. Democracy is an active thing, and it's starting here, and it's starting tonight. We're going to replace T. Berry with somebody much, much, much better. Moderator tonight. Yay, Sarah.
All right, so we're going to get right to it, and our rules for this evening are that we're going to give each candidate 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and then we've asked each one of them to select one question from the questionnaire that we asked them to fill out, and they all did. That's why they're sitting here in front of us. If you haven't read them, they're on our website and on our Facebook page. And we've asked them to select one of those questions to tell us more about. And those questions were crowdsourced from our members, what were the most important issues to them. So they'll get 2 minutes introduction, and then 2 minutes to tell us their answer to that question. And so they'll get 4 minutes total, starting with Ed Albertson. And we'll just walk down the table. Okay? And then after that, I have one question to stall so that all the questions that you guys have that you've written on your cards, and if you're not done, write fast, and get them to the group that is going to sort them and get them ready for us to start asking your questions. And then at the very end, before we finish, I have one last question that is super important that we will save time to ask to wrap things up. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Mr. Ed Albertson. Oh, and Karen down here is our timekeeper, so that's why she's flashing cards.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I can tell this is working. Hi, I'm Ed Albertson, and I am running for the U.S. House of Representatives, the 12th Congressional District, and I would like to thank all of you this evening for a couple of things. One, for being here. 2, for being involved. And 3, I think all of us are up here tonight, but T. Berry is not because of what you did. So I'd like everybody to give themselves a round of applause for doing that. So this is what democracy looks like. And I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud to be part of a slate of wonderful candidates up here. And yes, one of us is going to replace Pat T. Berry. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I'm running. I'm an Army veteran. I'm a businessman. I've worked internationally, nationally, locally. I've been in business for about 40 years. Gives you an idea of my age, maybe the color of my hair as well. I'm a parent, and I'm a proud citizen of the United States. And I'll tell you, I think we've got some real issues, real problems that have made all of us activists, at least everybody in this room. I'm concerned, as I think you are, that our governmental processes are somewhat irretrievably broken if we don't do something about that. I remember a saying some time ago that went something like, you know what, democracy is not a spectator sport. And although you're sitting there, I know none of you are spectators. We've all been involved over the last couple of years since the election in 2017 in trying to respond to big changes in our country. Changes that have come about because I think there's too much money in politics, because there's gerrymandering, which Fair Districts and Fair Elections has addressed, and I think that's corroded our governmental processes. I'm running because I can tell you that I feel like I am living proof of an American dream. I was taught in public schools. I was raised in a middle-class working family. My dad was in the Air Force for 20-some years. My mom worked for a doctor. I went to college, and I actually earned money over the summer, something you can't do anymore, so that I could go to college. In addition to that, I got a 4-year Army ROTC scholarship, which paid for my books, my tuition, and gave me the opportunity to get a top-quality education in a military college. I served in the Army from there. I went on to a number of good jobs because while I was in the Army, I also got a master's degree, compliments of the GI Bill. I'm telling you all of that not to brag or create a resume for you, but that was the American dream. That made it possible that if you wanted something and you were willing to work for it, you could probably get it. Somebody asked me at one of these events just a couple of weeks ago, well, what is the American dream? I think the American dream is opportunity for those that want it. Our founders defined it as life, liberty, and whatever makes you happy. I believe that that's slipping away. I believe that's why we have the current occupant in the White House. I believe that's why there's a current segment of our population and voters that are very angry, they're very scared, they're upset. There are a lot of issues that need to be addressed. But I'm going to circle back to the whole idea of too much money and gerrymandering, because things aren't getting done at a national level in Washington. And once again, our founders set up a government so that change would come quickly, so that there were 3 co-equal branches. But right now, none of them appear to be working very, very well. I think we need to send somebody to Washington to represent the 12th district. That somebody needs to be a problem solver. They need to be able to work with other people. They need to be able to work across the aisle. They need to be able to figure out what the problems really are, listen to the people, and get those things done. I intend to be that person, and I ask for your support this May and this November. By the way, you can vote twice. I bet everybody in here knows that, but you can actually vote twice for each one of us up here, because there's a primary for the unexpired term, and there's also the general. Want me to go into my topic?
No, you've taken your 4 minutes.
I did. Well, thank you. I thought you were going to raise that at the 1 minute mark. Sorry. Okay, thanks. I'll cover it later.
That's great.
Thank you.
My name's Lawrence Cohen. If it's okay with you guys, I'm going to just sit at the table. It's a little tight back here. I appreciate you having me out here. Unlike the rest of the folks at the table, I'm the Republican candidate for the 12th Congressional District. And I'm glad to be here because you all, as far as I know, are constituents in the 12th District. And I'm happy to be here to talk to you. So I want to tell you first a little bit about me. So I'm an attorney. I'm an accountant. I've been a business owner. I've been a business executive for small companies, large companies. I've done business here in the U.S., in Mexico, in Europe, Asia, India. So I've been around the world. I've seen how American companies do business overseas. I've seen how overseas companies treat American companies. And I'm very proud that I've been married to my wonderful wife for 20 years. We've got 3 great kids. One is about to go to college. And I'm a musician. I've played in the Ohio State University Marching Band. I've played in the New Albany Symphony Orchestra. And so, as you can see, I'm just a regular guy. And I think that it's time for a regular guy to be back in Washington, D.C., representing the citizens of the 12th Congressional District, because we've had enough of Washington insiders and career politicians, and I think I fit that bill.
Yes. And then if you want to expand on
Okay,
your
so
number 2.
okay, so I do. I want to also, before I expand on the voters' rights issue, I do want to say one other thing. As you think about who you're going to support up here, keep in mind that one of the reasons that this group exists and that a lot of you have spent a lot of time outside of Pat Tiberi's office protesting is because he wouldn't let you in the office to talk to him. There are no other Republican candidates who are here who are willing to talk to you. And so, when you think about who you're going to vote for, especially in May, think about who you want on the other side of that ballot in August and in November. Is it going to be somebody who's still going to ignore you, or somebody who's going to give you a seat at the table? So, in terms of voter rights, I think it's very important that voter access is available to everybody. I'm not sure that making it available through the driver registration is the right way to do it. I'm not sure that they're doing it through registration at schools, because you have too many high school dropouts. But we do have to address an issue. My mother, who moved to Florida 3 years ago, when I went to pull the walking list to go get my petition signed, she's still on the list. So that to me is a problem. And I'm not sure how we address it, but we do have to address making sure that the right people are registered to vote. The right people have access to vote, and frankly, that more people vote. If we get 30 to 50% turnout in this country, that's considered good. To me, that's unacceptable. So I'm glad to see you all here and all involved. involved, and make sure your friends get involved as well. And again, at least in May, I ask for your support.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out here. My name is Joe Manchin. I'm the Green Party candidate running for the U.S. House in the 12th Congressional District. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, and I have not been for many, many years. I've lived in the 12th District since the late 1970s. I've been a self-employed telecommunications engineer since then. Since 1978, actually. I've been in business for myself. And I'm really tired of seeing the people of the 12th Congressional District having zero representation in Congress. That's the main reason why I'm running for Congress today. I'm totally disgusted with what's coming out of Washington with the Democrats and Republicans. My view of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are that they are both owned by the very same multinational corporations that are running our out-of-control government today. That's why I would never run for office with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. The Green Party is totally independent of the multinational corporations running the government today. We don't take any money at all from these corporations, unlike the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. One of the main issues I want to see happen after I'm elected is the passage of U.S. House Resolution 676, which will provide universal single-payer health care. To me, that's one of the most important issues facing everybody in America today. Health care should be a basic human right for everyone in America, but sadly, it's not that way. We're somewhat fortunate that John Kasich actually got the expanded Medicaid and Medicare for Ohio. And, you know, I have to give him credit for that. He did a pretty good job getting that done for the people of Ohio. But we need to improve upon Medicare and Medicaid. We need universal coverage for everybody in America. And that's what I want to see happen.
Is this one? Good. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you to Ohio Indivisible 12 for putting on this forum. This is a packed room, and I think it speaks to the level of enthusiasm that we have surrounding this upcoming special election this year. For those of you who reside in Franklin County, my name is Danny O'Connor, and I currently serve as your county recorder. And it's good to be here at the Universalist Church because this is where I finish every single election day. I start at Whetstone, and I finish here at the Universalist Church because I live just across High Street right here in Clintonville. I'm running for United States Congress because, in my opinion, this is the most important midterm in the history of our country. This is a midterm where we can respond to a type of administration and a type of Congress and a type of economy and a type of governmental system that we haven't seen before. It's an opportunity for us to say, what type of economy do we want to have? Do we want an economy that rewards people to clock in and clock out? Last Friday, I had a chance to go visit with United Mine Workers in St. Clairsville, Ohio. Folks who are facing an issue with fully funding their pension. Think about this. These were people who went underground and extracted stuff from the earth, did things right, and now there's an issue about funding their pensions. The same thing's going on with the Teamsters. It's happened before with the iron workers. We have a system right now where ordinary people are left behind. I've spent my entire adult life, every bit of my adult life, fighting for progressive values. The most important time of my life was spent in the poorest congressional district in the United States. It was in the South Bronx, New York. And in that job, I worked with homeless folks. I worked with veterans. I worked with immigrants. We talk about DACA. I've spent time with the families that are impacted by that legislation. And I've always fought for these folks, and I've always stood for these values. Now, in my time as Franklin County Recorder, I've carried those values forward. I know this last year has been difficult for a lot of folks. Since January 20th last year, things have been fundamentally different. And it's an opportunity for us to reverse the course. Now, as Franklin County Recorder, I've enacted a number of policies in which I've resisted in my own way. One thing I've done for every single employee that I have, I've enacted paid family leave. Because no one who works for me should have to lose their job because of an illness or because of a loved one being sick. We've engaged in creating creative programs that deal with homelessness in conjunction with the City of Columbus. We've expanded opportunity for our veterans who serve us through our identification program. Now, I just got the red card, so I want to transition over to an issue. I'm going to talk about healthcare. Okay. Everybody remember 1992, Bill Clinton said, let's talk about healthcare. Yeah, it's the economy, stupid, and let's talk about healthcare. So I think everybody in this room, and myself included, and I'll tell you about this, has had a personal story that has to do with healthcare. I think every person at this table has had a story, every person in this audience. When I was a freshman in college, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And my mom was a retired teacher, had a good union job, has a good union pension, had good health care. And when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she was able to get the best care in the world. She was able to obtain a new drug that provided her a chance to fight back against breast cancer. And we beat that disease. And she's been in remission ever since. But you know what would happen if Obamacare was overturned? She would have something called a pre-existing condition. And if she didn't have that pension, and if she didn't have the health care that she has, she could be denied health care because of something she had nothing to do with. Those are the people that we need to fight for in Congress. And right now, those are the people who are being left behind. We don't even have a congressman right now in OH12, right? But come August 8th, or whenever Paul Ryan wants to swear one of us in, we're going to have a congressperson. And I can tell you this, when I'm in the United States Congress, if they're going to go after their health care, if they're going to have to go after your health care, they're going to have to get through me to do it. And I'm not going to let it. I'm going to fight every single day for every person in this district, no matter what their background, no matter what their socioeconomic status, no matter how much money they make. I'm Danny O'Connor, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Jackie Kenton, and I am running to represent Ohio's 12th Congressional District. First, I want to thank Ohio Indivisible 12 for hosting this event and for inspiring people like me to run for office. Also, are my fellow candidates who I've gotten to know over the months, who are wonderful people and worthy opponents. I am like any other American. I'm the granddaughter of immigrants from Italy and Ireland, one of which was an undocumented immigrant. I'm a military wife. I'm a member of a Gold Star family. I'm a mother of 2 sons, one 32 and one 12. I'll let you do the math. And nurse. A business owner here in the 12th district, and a concerned citizen who's concerned that the legislation and policies coming out of Washington do not work for all of us. As a military wife and a Gold Star family member, when the rhetoric coming out of Washington is so divisive and frankly scary and irresponsible, I take that very personally. As a nurse, I've worked for 20 years in our complex healthcare system, taking care of people who are affected by the access and affordability of our health care. I will fight for single-payer health insurance for all people. This is not only a right for people, right? Not a privilege. It's an economic issue. And it affects our whole economy. As the first 3 things that I will work on when I get to Washington are the economy and investing in human capital. That means people. And jobs for the 21st century. Healthcare, so it's affordable and accessible for all people, including women's health care. In addressing gun violence as a public health crisis that is. Aside from Doug, none of us up here has a legislative record. And the person who wins the primary has to be the Republican, which could very likely be Kevin Bacon. Sorry. Given his record on gun violence, healthcare, and women's issues, I am the best candidate and the only woman to beat him. I pledge that I will reach across the aisle and act with civility. That I will represent the people of the 12th District, be available to listen to their concerns and represent them and work hard for them in Washington. I've been to Senator Portman's office and talked to his aide, and it's very frustrating when you have major concerns like the future of our healthcare system. It's on the red card.
Is that just 2 minutes or 4?
That's it.
Thank you, Jackie.
I will work for you.
We've asked the remaining candidates to stand just at the request of the audience. So thank you.
It's no problem. I do have a broken foot, though. 2,242 and 2,424. Those are the days that my 2 little girls have left to attend a building where they are increasingly more likely to be murdered. Your children are not safe. That's the truth. Lauren's 6 and Logan's 4. I'm married to a wonderful wife, and I cannot believe is still tolerating me doing this. I've never ran for an elected office before. I've never been much involved in politics. There's nothing incredibly special about me. I'm just a teacher. I got 2 minutes. I'm a special education teacher. I spent the majority of my career working with emotionally disturbed children. Children that suffer from the economic abuse that our working families are constantly going through. Our parents, our working families, their children are being stolen from them. And I don't mean taken by somebody dragging them out of the house. I mean, they have to work multiple jobs. They're stressed out. They come home and release in lots of different ways. And they can't be there for their kids. I see it. Our teachers see it. Every classroom, we have children that are suffering. I'm not exaggerating. Suffering from the abuse of not being with their parents. And their parents are suffering because they can't be with their kids. I was going to talk about something different, but I think the gun issue needs to be talked about. Anybody who is not willing to say that AR-15s, bump stocks, and 30-round magazines should be on the streets is not worth your vote. And they're not worth your time. Because that is an issue that I know full well. When I walk outside of my classroom, my little girl's room is literally 3 rooms down from me. I moved from the high school to be with my little girls in the same building, 3 rooms down. And right down from there is a massive glass door. And I know that there is nothing I can do because I have my own room to help protect. Your kids, your grandkids, they're in the same boat. There's nothing your teachers can do except get lucky. So it's time that we make sure that we elect representatives who are not owned by money, that are not owned by special interests, and they will support us, working people, teachers, and families. That is the issue of the day. Our politicians are compromised. They are only concerned about being reelected, and that's why we don't have universal health care. And that's why our children continue to be murdered in schools. And that's why we don't have a public education system that ensures universal preschool for everybody. Thank you.
Well, folks, Pat T-Berry is out, and it's time to turn over a new leaf. My name is John Russell. It is an honor to be here. It's really exciting. This group is an inspiration. For the last 5 years, have ran my business farming produce and grinding tree stumps in Galena, which is Delaware County. So these are my nice clothes. I grew up in rural Ohio, right? I did 11 years of 4-H, never missed a county fair. I left to earn an ag science degree from Cornell University, and I returned to where I am today to start the business and be close to family. Now, we all have things that drive us, that make us who we are, and for me, that was my experience growing up in a small working class town that was left behind. And it's 3,500 people in the Ohio Valley, and in its prime was a picture of middle-class stability, factories that employed thousands of people, and the wages that were earned there lifted workers up into the middle class, and they sustained generations of my family's own business, right? But when I grew up, it was a different time. It was when factories had closed, and those wages had dried up, and families struggled to find footing. And in a graduating class of 55 kids in my public school, 3 of the guys that I played football with lost their lives to addiction. And witnessing a town go through that woke me up to politics. And it gave me a commitment that I'm going to have long after the results roll in for this race. And it's a commitment to stand up for people. It's a commitment to speak up for workers. It's a commitment to stand with those on the outside of power. Now, thank you. All of us play a small part in making this country live up to its best promises, right? And doing my small part is why I ran for state representative last year. And I'm proud to say in one of the toughest districts in the state, we knocked on 30,000 doors anyway. And because we showed up, because we were honest with people, because we had the right message, we ran in a county, Knox County, a rural county, that went for Trump by 35 points. We ran 7 to 24 points ahead of every other Democrat on the ticket, winning back voters that had been leaving the party for years. And doing my small part continued after that race, when I stood shoulder to shoulder with many of you as we fought for health care that people depended on, and as we won battles that people said we never should have won.
Yeah.
Tonight, because we're called to do that again, and I'm excited to stand with all of you in the fight of our lives at a time when it has never been so important. So I came here to earn your support. My name is John Russell. I am running with all these fine candidates to replace Pat T-Berry, and I'm really excited about it. But what I want to expand on a little bit is healthcare. This has come up and it's relevant to this group. We came up defending the advances that were hard won and that people really count on, right? So it goes without saying, we have to preserve what is there. We have to preserve the Affordable Care Act, and that's important to me. I started my business and benefited from the 26-year-old provision of that law. It helped me out. But for-profit health care is a mess here. We can all feel that. No other industrialized country pays more for worse results than we do, right? So in Congress, I'm going to fight for universal single-payer health care. We will expand on that later. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Is that on? All right. Thank you, Indivisible. And thank you all for being here this evening. I was told to say my name loud. My name is Zach Scott, and I'm the former sheriff of Franklin County. My work experience ranges from UPS, where I was in the private sector, to healthcare, I was a respiratory therapist, eventually got into law enforcement. And I spent time in law enforcement working everything from SWAT to homicide to community relations to undercover, and eventually became the sheriff. My family history a little bit. My wife is an ICU nurse. My son and daughter are in law enforcement, and my son-in-law is in law enforcement. I am a 35-year member of labor and still carry my card today and still pay my union dues. And I'm also a proud grandpa of 3 very rambunctious little girls. So that's kind of who I am. Why am I running? Because Congress is it's broken. It's dysfunctional. I'm not saying anything that hasn't already been said up here. The problem with it is we got way too many politicians. We don't have public servants. We've been a public servant before. But what we have to start doing is we have to be smart and we have to be problem solvers. All my career, that's what I've done. Solve problems. But we as Democrats, in order to get back in there, to get the House back, we have got to be smart. We got to stay on message. So that's a little bit why I'm running. We've got a lot of issues ahead of us. We got healthcare. Still got jobs for the 12. We still got issues from DACA. We still got gun control issues. We still have the issues concerning the trade, NAFTA. It's on and on and on. These issues have got to have someone who has experience solving problems. It's not afraid to reach across the aisle. It's not afraid to see opportunity. And there's opportunity right now with the gun issues. I see that coming. So I'm about to answer one of the questions is about running for this position, being able to experience it, to get it, and then to hold it. As a sheriff, I've been mostly involved in the executive branch of government, but also the legislative side as well. I've worked at state levels on legislative problems when it comes to the law. I've been in D.C. I've had roundtable discussions with everyone from Eric Holder to Dianne Feinstein. So I've been there, I've been here, and as a sheriff, I'm also on boards that look over administrative rules, which are basically laws, and with the Sheriff's Office, Franklin County Sheriff's Office, the largest one in the state of Ohio, I'm the policy writer and maker which actually affects the community. So that's where I feel my experience comes in, to be able to actually step in there and get moving quickly. How do we hold it? This ain't going to be fun, but it's about money. The Republicans are going to raise $35 to $40 million on this race. I want you to think about that for a second. $35 to $40 million. All these candidates up here have awesome ideas. But if we're not smart, we don't raise the money right, all these ideas, it's going to be stalled out. Because we're going to get Democrats in there. They're going to continue to have House representatives going to be just with Republicans again. Now, fortunately, we've signed, and I can stand up and tell you how many people we've signed recently. We have just signed a week and a half ago the #1 fundraiser when it comes to grassroots digital media fundraising in the country. They did Alabama. They did Georgia. We have the National Campaign Director for those who are also signed on with us. We have to raise the money. We have to stay on pace with these, or they will destroy our forces. Sheriff Brown's last statewide holder we got in the state of Ohio. Think about that. Why is that? Well, we got to be smart. We got to start making sure we're making the right call at the right time with the right candidates going forward, or we won't be able to get Democrats in there. So I'm asking for your support. I've kind of been there, haven't completely done that job. I know what it is to get jobs done because I've been a problem solver all my career. I know how to put a plan together and execute the plan. But I need you guys to make sure that you vote for the candidate that's going to be able to win on the other side, which is coming very soon. So that's why I'm asking for your support and your vote. Thank you so much.
First of all, I'd like to assure you that I am standing up. And my name is Doug Wilson. It's great to be sharing the stage with all these other fine people who stepped forward to fill the void that was left when Mr. T. Berry left. Better late than never, right? There is a distinct advantage to going last, and that's that these people have already touched on many of the things that would eat up my 4 minutes. So let's go down a slightly different road, if we may. I've been in healthcare since 1973 as a respiratory care practitioner. Dealt with a lot of patients, a lot of difficult situations. I'm a problem solver. I have worked in local government in Delaware County for almost 10 years on the village council in Ashley and as mayor. So I've seen that side of things too. That was a long time ago during Ronald Reagan's time in office. So there weren't a lot of Democrats in office at that time. But let's go down that other road, because everything that's been mentioned goes back to my issue, and that's the funding. And I'd like to start down that road with a verse from one of my favorite poems from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings. It's all about the money. There's too much dirty money in politics. That's also another reason I'm glad I was standing, because I couldn't see you before. Congress is broken. That we all agree. That's why we all gathered here a year ago and offered Mr. T-Berry an opportunity to come and discuss with us our concerns. He didn't do that. Instead, he left in the middle of the term that he had just won. Our Congress is broken. Their priorities are wrong. T-Berry was in office long enough to pass the Christmas tax package for the wealthiest 1% of the people and corporations in this country. It goes on forever, whether they ever create another job in this country or build another plant or hold up any of the promises to which they were expected. All of us have 8 years. And we get pennies back in taxes, not tens of thousands of dollars. Health care. Universal health care, rebuilding infrastructure, all those things can only happen if we reorganize our priorities. Information on my bio can be found on my website. Please check it out. It's DougWilsonForOhio.com. I thank you all for turning out tonight. To me, you are all citizen patriots because you're here, you care, and you're standing up for yourselves and your fellow citizens. Thank you very much.
All right, so we have a lot of really good questions, and the questions are for all of you. So I'm going to exercise moderator's privilege and do something kind of different. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and you can choose which one you want to answer so that we can get through more questions. I'm going to read them both, and then you can answer both, or you can answer one in 2 minutes, one in 1 minute, one in the other. Make sense? Sort of? You have 2 minutes. You can answer one question or both. Here are the questions. What do you think you can do to help bridge the racial, cultural, and socioeconomic divides that affect our district? And then the second one is, the failed war on drugs has resulted in the mass incarceration of people from poor and minority communities and those with addiction and mental health concerns. What would you do to reform U.S. drug laws, particularly felony convictions for minor drug possessions that have led to mass incarceration? All right, so we will start with Mr. Cohen.
So the first question so two of my opponents on the Republican side had a good hand in drawing the boundaries of this district. And they're running for this seat right now, and they were in our Ohio House of Representatives and when the boundaries are drawn. So, yeah, it's an interesting district to say the least. It goes all the way from Zanesville up to Mansfield, and it includes places like New Albany, Dublin, and Burlington. And so I think what you have to do is you have to get out there and you have to talk to the people like I'm doing here tonight. You have to be able to go where they are. Part of what you guys were asking for is town halls, and I would pledge to have town halls probably every other month in different parts of the district, so that everyone has a chance to come out and talk to their representative. So I think that's one of the ways that you can try to do that. And obviously, there's not a lot of diversity up here on the stage, so that does present a problem for a lot of minority voters. But I think that we have to do what we can to do that. The second question is about the drug problem and
Mass incarceration.
yeah. So that's a tough one because I think that with a lot of the laws that we have on the books, we have to enforce the laws, and I think we've got the former sheriff here will tell you we've got to enforce the laws that we have. Is it a good idea to have laws on the books that incarcerate minor drug problems when we have a lot of bigger other issues to deal with? I'm not sure that it is. But exactly what we do about that, I think we have to study that problem. We have to look at what we can do. And that gets into the whole idea of the whole prison complex and where is our money as a country best spent? Is it best spent incarcerating people like that, or is there some sort of rehabilitation that can be done? My brother happens to work in a drug rehabilitation as a clinical director for a drug rehabilitation center. And so, I know that there are things that we can do to help out in that area.
Thank you.
Back in the 1980s, when the Green Party of the United States was formed, part of our political platform was the abolition of all of the laws regulating marijuana. Marijuana is an extremely helpful plant that grows in the wild, pretty much. It's been harvested and used usefully for many, many years in the form of hemp. Our founding fathers suggested that all farmers grow hemp for creating paper pulp. And I can see where if we have a massive expansion of the growth of hemp in this country, we could stop cutting down our trees and destroying them for paper. This comes to the mass incarceration of people who have been jailed for years for possession of marijuana in some states. The private corporate prison industrial complex is all part of the lobbying organizations that have pushed for strict laws on marijuana to fill up their beds in the private prisons. That's another reason why we need to get rid of the laws regulating marijuana, because most of these private prisons are basically legalized slavery. What we need to do is we need to nationalize the private prison industrial complex in America and get rid of the laws regulating the use of or possession of marijuana so that we can get these people out of prison and let them lead productive lives.
Regarding the first question, how many folks know that this is the wealthiest congressional district in the state of Ohio? A good number do. I mentioned before that I spent some time in my life in the poorest congressional district in the United States. I serve the largest county in the state of Ohio and the county that makes up the largest percentage of the vote in this upcoming election. I grew up in the reddest of red, I think the third reddest county in the state of Ohio. So when we talk about how we can bring folks together. I think it's by, like has been referenced, going out into the community, having discussions, saying to folks, I understand that when you sit down around the kitchen table at night and you figure out your bills, and you try and pay your mortgage, and you try and save for retirement, and God forbid you go on a vacation, which it seems like folks on the other side don't think anyone should be able to do, but you go on a vacation 2 weeks out of the year. The people who sit down, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, when you sit down around that table and you have those issues. When you discuss things, we talk about issues relating to gun safety. Where I grew up, folks don't like gun violence any more than we do in this community. But it's an issue that plagues folks no matter what their background is. And I think this election is an opportunity, especially where it is on the ballot in August, for us to have a dialogue on how we can bring this country together. And it starts with this community, because we look at the economic issues that are at play. We see the income gap growing. We see middle-class wages being stagnant. I think if wages grew as fast as the economy, as fast as the stock market has, I think everybody would be fine. But we haven't seen that to be the case. And so more and more people are feeling the squeeze. I read something today. It said healthcare premiums are up 18% in the state of Ohio since Obamacare has been attacked by the current Congress. We need to fight back against that, because people who I referenced before, whether they're in Mansfield, whether they're in Muskingum County, whether they're in Delaware County, whether they're here in Clintonville, when you're sitting around that kitchen table, you should have the right to economic security, you should have the right to health care, and you should have the right to a decent retirement. And that's what I'll fight for every single day in the United States Congress, and that's my track record as your recorder of Franklin County. Thank you.
I think I started out by saying my story is an American story. It started with my grandparents and my grandfather, who worked in the steel mills, a good paying union job, a good pension that allowed the next generation of our family to move into the middle class. I told you that my sons are 20 years apart. My son's 32. I had him when I was a freshman in college. I was on my parents' health care plan, and it didn't cover maternity care. So my dad said we were going to go downtown, and we were going to sign me up for Medicaid. I was mortified. And he said, I've paid into this my whole life, and it's there for people when they need it. I with all those folks and signed up for Medicaid. And was able to have health care for myself, good prenatal care, and for my son when he was born. I went to college on a Pell Grant. I got my bachelor's degree in nursing. I went as a single mom. I went on and earned my master's degree in workforce development and education. My son has gone on and earned his master's degree in, he has in film. All that being said, I didn't do that on my own, and I recognize that my zip code mattered, because I couldn't have done it without the support of my family and the support of those programs that helped me along the way. I work in Columbus City Schools. I work to fight for wellness and healthcare for the 52,000 students every day. I've worked there since 2000. I work with families who don't have food. I work with families who don't have healthcare. I work with families who can't have transportation to get that healthcare. I understand the boundaries, and I fight for those programs every day, but people can't do it without support from our government.
So the first question about how we bring people together. Spending most of my career working with emotionally disturbed children, empathy is lacking in many children who have situations of dire economic abuse and economic need. It's hard to have empathy for other people when you don't have any food. It's hard to have empathy for other people that are different than you when you can't get a good job. How we bring people together is we have to start thinking bold. Bold ideas, big ideas. We need a public works program that builds universal preschools everywhere. We need to retrofit the country with solar panels. These are the kinds of things that people can see and they can do. You call it build. In Johnstown, where I used to teach, that's students of mine on my track team that I used to coach, they would go up to Michigan and with their build project, they would build houses or parts of houses for people that needed it. When you build, you bring people together and unite because they can see it. When it comes to the other question about mass incarceration, if you're not a violent person, you should not be in prison. If you are doing something to hurt another person, there's got to be some sort of alternative. And what that alternative is you've got to give people that are in prison right now, not only treatment, you have to give them a skill. You cannot just put people back in the same environment without any new skill. Or the person has the same situation or the same thing happen. And you perpetuate the problem. So of course, we take marijuana from the Schedule 1 drug and move it down. Marijuana doesn't kill you. Alcohol does. Marijuana doesn't kill you. Cigarettes do. And you can find them at the golf course. I mean, I love golf, but I need beer to get me through it. I've got 2 kids. My golf game sucks. There's no reason that marijuana needs to be a Schedule 1 drug.
Let's address the racial divide part of this question, and I think it's important to acknowledge, because it was hit on earlier, Congress full of white males doesn't have the best track record on race, and I recognize the irony. I recognize the irony that my candidacy does nothing to change that, and this is something that we have to make up for. And it's important what we're going to spend our time doing. So I think it's important for myself, who doesn't have the lived experience of communities of color or minority communities, to go into these communities and listen and hear about the problems as they are. And it's important to continue that by surrounding myself with a diverse range of perspective, both in this campaign and when we're hiring staff in Congress to inform me on issues that I haven't lived myself. That's missing in a lot of our representation. It needs to be addressed. As far as going out and bridging the gap in this district, it's very unique. I think this comes down to how we campaign. If it's a criticism I've had of my own party, is that for the longest time we felt that we could write off rural counties and not go out there and listen to people there and make them part of the campaign and truly stand with working people that have experienced economic changes in the outlying counties. Because this district, while it is very wealthy and very educated, those are average numbers. This is a tale of 2 cities. And while Delaware County enjoys some of the best growth in the nation, Franklin County has its good parts too. Parts of Franklin County and parts of rural counties have been left out of that. And it's important that people there see our face, that we make this a part of our campaign to go there. Thank
you. Concerning the racial divide, one of the things that I did when I got first elected as a sheriff, well, several things, but one of them was that I made sure that we had a full-time EEO officer. So we never had any, if we did have an issue within that office, what we would do is make sure we had an investigation immediately when it comes to hostile work environment or sexual harassment. But also in the community relations area, what we decided to do is I hired in our full first-time African-American liaison. It never happened before. I hired in our first LGBT liaison. We never had one of those before. I hired in a Somali, who was a gentleman who was going to be our liaison for a Somali community. We also hired a Latino individual who was going out to the communities to make sure that all these communities that we're talking about that feel that they're not a part, we actually made them a part of our community, the sheriff's office. What we also did is we put together an advisory board So that way you could come in and sit up with the sheriff, with the chiefs, and actually have a conversation about what your community was feeling and what your community wanted to talk about. And I made sure that all these communities were invited and felt part of it. Now what happened out of that is we had an uptick, I want to say in some of the different categories, up to 25 to 30% increase in applications. So people weren't coming in, weren't actually get a job, actually felt comfortable with the sheriff's office. So I'm very, very proud of that. When it comes to incarceration, at the Franklin County Jail, the daily average population in Franklin County Jail is around 2,100 inmates. That's here in Franklin County. 2,100 inmates per day. I've seen it as high as 2,600. Now, almost 30% of that is people who have some type of mental disability. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office is the largest mental hospital in Central Ohio. It's almost 600 inmates in there that have mental capacity. So, in order to cut down on some of this, we got to start funding. We got to start funding our mental health issues.
I was raised by my maternal grandparents from the age of 4. My grandfather was the principal of the school system, Boys Industrial School, Boys Juvenile Reformatory outside Lancaster, Ohio. One thing he instilled in all of us at a very early age was the inherent worth and dignity of every single person. This is going to the first part of the question. When I was growing up, we knew our neighbors. We'd get out. We'd go to community events. We'd interact with our neighbors. We'd approach strangers. Say, hi, how you doing? Where are you from? We need to restore that sense of community. That helps bridge the gap between different groups in our communities and within our district. And we need to start doing that a little late tonight, but we can start it tomorrow. Okay? So that's my challenge to all of you. No nonviolent offender should be incarcerated. There should be diversity projects and programs for drug offenders and for other nonviolent offenders, but that goes back to getting our priorities and our financial house in order, because only if we do that can we pay for mental health care, for universal health care for all, for diversion programs, and all the other things that we as a nation need and deserve. I'm almost certain that when Abraham Lincoln, a Republican, said that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, I don't think he was thinking of the Penn Central Railroad, and he certainly couldn't see down the line to think of IBM, ExxonMobil, and all the big money concerns today. Thank you.
As an Army veteran, one of the things that I took away from my military service was how people relate to each other when they have a common goal, some common ground. And I related to that from my public school experiences as well. In public school, I learned to get along with people that were different, that might think differently than I did. And those experiences reinforced an idea in me that we got to stop dividing ourselves. We got to start looking for ways to work together and to talk together, to have dialogues. I know that sounds kind of pie in the sky and something that we all talk about and dream of, but there's ways to do that. There are ways to find common ground. I recently worked with a group in Newark, Ohio, on transportation, and we've been struggling with this problem for 14 years. And what I do for a living is I facilitate discussions. And what I found was, and we've mentioned this, several of us, that the model for problem solving helps people get off their chest and think about the things that work and don't work and what options they have. So I really think there are ways, and they've been addressed throughout the whole group here, getting people to just talk. I'm very encouraged that this is happening everywhere. People are getting together like we are tonight. Regarding mass incarceration, I think that privatized prisons are just a really bad idea. Businesses are in business to make money, and as one of my colleagues has referenced, that's how you make money. You fill them up. But I happen to have a client, I won't mention their names, it's probably not nice to mention up here, but they actually make track and trace devices. The technology is there for nonviolent offenders. If we want to know where they are and what they're doing, we can do that without spending a lot of money on prisons and filling them up. And of course, with the number of programs that are available and should be expanded. Thank you.
So it should surprise no one that we have quite a few questions that have to do with gun violence. So I'm going to amalgamate them together and then also give you all an opportunity to make any pledges or promises relating to things like taking NRA money, banning bump stocks, assault-type rifles, or arming public school teachers. So arming public school teachers, NRA money, bump stocks, and assault-type rifles or guns or weapons. So I would like to hear from you, each of you, what actions you would propose to protect all of our children, and I'm going to add everybody, not just our children. I want our children to be protected, but I would like everyone to be protected in and out of schools from gun violence. And we'll start with you, Joe, and just work our way around the table.
First of all, I will never take any money from the NRA. My view of the NRA is that it is a lobbying organization that works for the corporations that manufacture the weapons of war. AR-15s, automatic weapons, bump stocks have no place on the streets of America. We need mandatory background checks for all gun sales. Private sales that take place need background checks. We need to end America's wars for oil. And that's basically what the NRA is all about. It's about pushing weapons of war onto the American people to divide us with the ugly events that we've seen lately in schools across America. The only way we can stop this is to get the weapons of war off the streets of America.
It's a terrible thing when the carnage that we've seen and that we just saw in Florida visits every facet of American life. And we can't always identify the exact root cause, but it does have to do with our gun laws. The first thing that folks talk about whenever there's some type of massacre, which is what we've seen in massacres, or some type of massive amount of violence, is folks talk about mental health. And mental health is a problem, but mental health exists in every country. Mental health problems exist all over Europe and Australia. We're the only country where assault weapons are readily available. We're the only country where these weapons of war can so easily fall into the hands of people who want to do bad. I will not take a dime from the NRA ever in my career. And one thing that I think happens a lot of times in the gun debates, we stand up here and we say, oh, I own X number of guns. I'm from rural Ohio. I mean, I grew up in rural Ohio. I know the culture of gun ownership and hunting, and it's something that I respect. But I remember when I was 13 years old and Columbine happened. And that was the first one. And I remember the next day being afraid to go to school, right? And I'm sure some of you in here have kids who asked after Parkland, Mommy, Daddy, Grandma, Grandpa, is that going to happen in my school? I'm scared. And that's okay, because I remember as an adult after Virginia Tech, I was afraid to go to class. And I remember after the movie theater, I was afraid to go watch the movie. And this should not happen in this country. Little kids should be able to go to school to make friends and to learn and become productive members of our society. And to those little kids who are scared, and to anyone who's an adult that's scared, I can tell you this. The NRA is going to spend $4 to $5 million in this race over the course of this summer. There's nothing we can do, no matter how many guns any of us own or where we grew up, that's going to stop that from happening. But what we can do is when we're in office, when I'm sworn in by Paul Ryan, whenever in August, you can tell the family members of yours that are scared that they will have a congressman who will stand up for them, who will fight back against the NRA with pride, and will do it every single day in Washington. Thank you.
First of all, Congress needs to enact comprehensive gun law reform now. We need to do their job. I mentioned earlier, this is a public health crisis. We need to, and we know it's a problem. We need to fund the research and allow CDC to do their job. I work in a school, and I am trained teachers to be part of our medical crisis response team. And in that training, we teach them to put tags on people's toes, green, yellow, or red, as to who is not savable and whose lives we can try to save. We practice this in schools, we prepare for it, and it needs to be comprehensive across the country. So we need to support schools in this training, because we know when teachers are trained and staff are trained, that they save lives. California is a good example of that. When the recent shooting happened, and teachers had just practiced the day before, and no lives were lost. I will never take NRA money. I support the ban of assault rifles, bump stocks, and anything else. And legislation for people who are gun owners to be responsible gun owners, that they need to keep those guns secure and out of the hands of children and other people who might commit crimes with them. And if they don't, then they need to be held accountable for it, just as if you're held accountable when you drive a car and you hurt someone with it.
I don't know if this is legal to do, but I think I would take the NRA's money and then post a video online affirming it. I don't know what the FEC would say about that. But I think that's a good idea. I don't think arming teachers with guns is anything other than one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard of. And let me explain why. I'm sure the sheriff could help me on this as well. A police officer, it's difficult to use a sidearm to stand and hit a target that's all the way at the back of that room. That's very difficult to do. It takes lots of practice, hours and hours of work. Now, when you put somebody in front of you with an AR-15 firing, your hands will shake. You have no chance whatsoever of shooting that person, but they have a very good chance of shooting you. And that's why those 4 police officers sat outside. They knew it. And what's hard to say is they should have gone in. They should have gone in. But I empathize for them because they knew. They knew that there was nothing for them to do. And then I empathize because they realized that day that they were cowards. And you can't prepare somebody to be a coward. You don't know if they will or will not be that way. Soldiers, police officers, teachers, we're making people decide if they're going to be cowards or not. You don't know how somebody's going to respond until that issue happens. You can't put a gun in a teacher's hand. We're not good at shooting. Good at teaching. I put a 25-minute video online. If you go to my Facebook page, you can watch this. I've got a 25-minute plan of how we can start solving this problem. that starts solving this problem. And a big part of it is many, many people aren't happy. They're not happy. Happy people don't shoot children.
This is, obviously a tragedy that ends up in the news way too often. And it is unthinkable that it could happen to any one of our loved ones, that they could go to school or work and not come home from it. And the worst part of that is this is preventable. We have to have the courage to stand up and do the things that are going to prevent it. So I will not take $1 from the NRA. I welcome and encourage them to get their money to people who have the election. So we'll stand up to them. Now, yes, I did grow up in rural Ohio. I myself own guns because raccoons are a problem with chickens, and guns are useful for controlling raccoons. I'll just leave it at that. But here's the deal. This is a country where you have the right to own guns. That doesn't come at the expense of our right to stay safe and alive in schools, movie theaters, and public places. There's rights and responsibilities and is not in position to implement reasonable gun reform, so here's what I would do. Universal background checks have closed the gun show loophole. 40% of all sales run through that loophole. Barring sales to people with violence in their background. We know that domestic violence is a red flag. Implementing things that encourage safe ownership, like lost and stolen penalties for guns, so owners are incentivized to keep them under lock and key and report them missing within 30 days to the local police, so we dry out the black market. Lastly, banning the private ownership of assault weapons. And let me caveat this, because this is important for Democrats to do. We need to tie our reforms to firepower and lethality, not the style of weapon. That has gotten us into loopholes in the past. It's something we need to take into consideration when we have all this momentum right now as we implement gun reform.
Well, I'm not taking any money from the NRA as well, so everybody's got some really good ideas out here. I enjoy listening to every one of them. I think one stocks are definitely on. We talked about background checks. They do background checks now. They supposedly check the mental health. No one funds it. Did you guys know that? No one funds that stuff. They say, oh, we're going to do this, and this stuff starts falling through the cracks. When people don't do their jobs, people die. Now, I've been a victim of gun violence. I've been shot once during a SWAT raid back in 1994. My son and my daughter, my son-in-law, strap a gun on every night when they go to work. They're going to face people out on the street with guns. I am fully aware of the dangers when it comes to guns, being a sheriff. So dealing with these is going to take some comprehensive, good strategies and smart Democrats. We're not going to get done with Republicans. No disrespect, Lawrence, but it's just not going to happen. They're not going to stand up for it. So the only way that we're going to get true reform is if we get Democrats there who are willing to make sure we get true reform. When it comes to funding these situations and holding people accountable when they drop the ball. And we've had recently a string of people dropping the ball from the FBI to those deputies, and they've cost our kids' lives. I could go back to Texas, the Air Force not doing their job. People have got to start being, we got to get gun reform. But people got to be held accountable when they don't do their job. And there's got to be some level of punishment when someone dies from people not doing their job. And that's something I will push for once I get to Congress. Thank you.
We're all preaching to the choir here. We all want reasonable, responsible reform for this current situation, which is unacceptable. How many out there have access to the internet? Almost everybody. Look it up. The NRA is actually classed as a non-profit organization and not not taxed. How many of you who have access to the internet knew that? A few. I'm impressed. No, I will not take a single dollar, a single dime from the NRA. My wife is a public school teacher. My 2 daughters are public school teachers. All of you that have the internet, please go on there and look up the safest school in America. It's a short little video that was on last week. It's a school in Indiana where something as simple as having someone go down the hall and look through the glass windows in all the doors into those rooms and seeing where the safe zone in that room is and putting a strip of red tape down on the floor where someone walking by can't see anyone behind that red stripe can save lives. Something that simple. But look up that video on the safest school in America. We need to eliminate multi-magazine, multi-round magazines. If you are such a poor shot that you need 30 bullets to bring down your dinner, you're going to starve. And you should. I'm a gun owner. My dad was a marksmanship instructor for Fairfield County. My brother is in law enforcement, just retired. Thank you.
We are indeed preaching to the choir. And I learned how to shoot as a Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout. I learned how to shoot in the Army. I own firearms. But what's going on right now is just senseless. 95% of America wants background checks. But here's why they aren't happening. Rob Portman got $3 million from the NRA. Donald Trump took $30 million from the NRA. So that's why thoughts and prayers get offered. That's why crazy ideas like let's arm all the teachers. That's more gun sales, by the way. Yeah, that's wrong. That's wrong. Obviously, bump stock's got to go. I agree. When you talk assault rifles, we got to be careful because I got a BB gun that looks like one. Bad choice on my part. But I do. But it's the firepower that we got to worry about. We got to worry about weapons that are being created by gun manufacturers that are designed with one thought in mind, and that's to kill a lot of people fast. High-capacity magazines combined with high-velocity rounds are for one thing, to kill a lot of people. That's not a sport weapon. That nobody needs that, and I'll stand by that. There's one other thing that I think we can do. The product liability laws do not apply to gun manufacturers. Yeah, you could sue a ladder company because you stood on the wrong step because you were stupid and did not read this is not a step. But you cannot sue a gun manufacturer for creating a weapon that a young kid bought at 18 because it's legal in Florida to buy that style weapon at 18 and go in and kill 17 people. And if we remove that, I think you're suddenly going to find that they're not going to be creating those weapons. We got to get to the root of this. It's a mindset here and it's a sickness here that we've got to address. And one of the ways is stop protecting the industry that's killing all of us. We can do that. We can pass those laws, remove that protection. In addition to the other things my colleagues mentioned up here, we can make America safe for ourselves and our children.
I haven't taken any money from the NRA either, and don't plan to. I mentioned earlier that my brother was a clinical director of a drug rehab center in Boynton Beach, Florida. About 6 years ago, he moved to Boynton Beach from Parkland. My nephew would have been a junior at high school. Nicholas Cruz was captured in the neighborhood he used to live in. So that one hit very close to home. We have a gun violence problem. I'm not sure we have a gun ownership problem. The first thing I would do when I get to Congress is propose that we repeal the Dickey Amendment. The Dickey Amendment passed in 1996 prevents the CDC and the government from funding research into gun violence. We do have problems. We have people who have anger issues. We have people who have mental issues. We have people who have grown up in single-parent households, or worse yet, where both parents are working and there's no supervision at home. We have violent video games that kids are playing these days. We don't know what the problem is because we haven't studied it. So I will vote to remove bump stocks. That's a no-brainer. But before I would vote to remove any other guns from circulation, I would want to see a study, and I would have that study funded by the government. Thank you.
All right, so we might have time for 2 more questions if you all answer very quickly and don't take the full 2 minutes just to talk. So the next question, and we'll start with you, Danny, is what specific steps should Congress take to protect future elections from interference by hostile or even friendly foreign governments?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a timely question. One of my roles as Franklin County Recorder here in Columbus is to serve on what's called the Data Board. And just this past week, in my capacity as a voting member of the Data Board, we voted to give our board's elections $110,000 worth of new security to protect our electoral process from any type of interference, any type of hacking, any type of outside entities from getting in. I actually had a letter to the editor published today in the Columbus Dispatch talking about why it's important to have automatic registration. I know that doesn't necessarily go to the issue of the hospital system because it's timely. It's important for us to both safeguard and expand the right to vote, because it's the most fundamental right that we have. And when you think about the history of this country and how far we've come, because at the beginning it was just white male property owners, and then it was just white males, and then it was just white men and women, and then the vote began to grow. And we look at what happened in the 60s. We look at what happened even when President Obama was president. The Supreme Court overturned a section of the Voting Rights Amendment that was passed in 1965 that said, oh, we don't need the Voting Rights Amendment anymore. We've solved all the problems with race. That's not true. We need those protections in place. When I'm in Congress, I'll fight to make sure that our states, our municipalities, have the type of assistance, have the type of support that they need from the top level to ensure that our elections are protected. We know what happened this last time with the Russians. That's pretty damn clear by now, right? Despite what the president might tweet. It's up to Congress to safeguard that in the future. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what I've been able to do at the local level for folks here. It's not something that a lot of people know about. I encourage any members of the press to attend these extremely exciting data board meetings where we talk about this stuff. But if you love policy, and honest to God, I love policy, you'd enjoy it because you realize how important this stuff is, and I think that it's important that we continue that.
Thank you, Danny. I'm glad to hear that's happening here in Ohio. The federal government needs to help states protect our voting by investing in cybersecurity, machines with paper backups, and audits. We also need to put some resources to protecting our country against cyber attacks from outside foreign governments. Although it wasn't weapons that were used, it's just as dangerous because it gets at the fundamental of what makes this country great. Redistricting lines. Politicians are picking voters, voters aren't picking politicians. And individual itself is very involved in this area. And that goes to show you when citizens get involved and stand up for our rights, what can happen. And thank you, all of you, for doing that. Voter access. We don't need to be restricting voter access. We need to be expanding it. So whatever we do, we need to make it easier for people to vote as opposed to making it more difficult. So more Americans are represented and all of our interests are taken care of.
Well, I think the big reason they felt they could do it. They looked and they saw a divided country and they said, let's try. And they did. They influenced it. I think the scarier thing is it was that close to begin with. That's kind of where well, as Democrats, we missed. When Trump got elected, I didn't blame anybody else. I tried to figure out what the hell happened. What did I miss? What did I miss? Even if Russia had done it, which all the evidence is saying, yes, they have done it. Even if that is the case, the fact that it was so close should shock us. And the issue, so we've missed something. We stopped talking to working people. We have. We stopped talking to the people that voted for Trump because they feel it. They see that their jobs are being automated. They see it. They see their friends and families and neighbors not having a place to go. They see that their bank account can't ever get in the black. That's happening. But another thing we can do is those voting machines are old. Have you looked at them? They are really old. It's probably pretty easy to hack into that. But a high school kid could. Like, we need to update that. It's 2018. They're old.
So yeah, it goes without. We need to ensure the integrity of our elections. So what can we do? When we're in Congress, we can make sure that federal funds are available to stand behind the Board of Elections to make the changes necessary to get us to machines with paper ballots that have auditable trails so you can go in there and actually see what happens. So that's number one. Secondly, when we're talking specifically about this Russia issue, we're talking about tech companies that have nearly monopolistic power on the media that we consume right now. I would hold hearings on how exactly they use that to their advantage to sway enough votes to steal an election. There needs to be accountability on that front. And continuing, I second John's point. One thing that we can all do right now in this campaign is recognize that people have lost trust in their politicians, and that's because they feel distant and removed from their politicians. So what I'm going to do is build the best grassroots campaign in the state, in the nation, and go out into every corner of this district to establish a person-to-person channel of communication with people who question and don't have trust in their representatives. I think grassroots, person-to-person politics, free from corporate money, is the antidote to the trust that people have lost in politics. We can fix that here.
We're going to continue with the Voting Rights Act and make sure that that's properly enforced. We have to make sure that when it comes to the voting, we've got to make sure that people have access. You ever work with the Secretary of State from each one of the states? Now, the states have the most control over how the voting is conducted. But I think it would be good for us to get involved and make sure they have access to cyber experts. I'm not a cyber expert. I have worked with companies that do cyber security. A few months ago back in North Carolina, I worked with a consulting group. And a lot of times it's just behavioral issues that will help fix cyber issues. And if we can work with the Secretary of State to have access to people who can come in and make sure that they're actually doing behaviors that prevent cyber hacks, that's the first thing we have to make sure we do in Congress to help our states. When it comes to Facebook and these social medias, we have to make sure that we're working in the public and private partnerships with them. A lot of misinformation gets put out there. That's a lot of what I'm hearing what the Russians were doing, putting it on a regular basis. So the ability to work with these different, from Google to Facebook to YouTube and all that, that's something we need to do in Congress to make sure that we set up liaisons with them to make sure that they're getting the resources they need and that we're all sharing information so we can know exactly how to deal with these types of situations. So they're going to continue doing it. They're not going to stop. Thank you.
Sarah, you asked us to be brief if possible. I think I can be. Everybody's talking about cybersecurity, technology. Everybody out there has got one of these. Everybody sent a text. send button auto-corrupt, put something completely different out there. Here's an idea on safeguarding and protecting our electoral process for a life package. That'll help. Illumination is important. To safeguard our electoral process, let's get away from the 21st century and go back to a paper ballot. We don't need a machine that can auto-corrupt and change it at the last minute when you file that vote. What about a good old-fashioned paper ballot? I've seen many poll workers here come in tonight, and I thank you all for your service. And many more of you, I'm sure, would volunteer if you knew that it would safeguard the process that we all hold dear. Thank you.
I think voting rights are the most sacred rights that we all have as citizens. I think voting rights are civil rights, and I think it protects our democracy from what's going on right now. I believe that there should be a national set of standards. They should apply across the 50 states, and we should monitor those, just like we send monitors to other countries when we suspect that they're not fulfilling their democratic duties. And I just want to say, in my short history of life, I can remember an election that was questionable because of hanging chads. And I can remember now an election last time that is quite questionable because somebody was meddling with the way in which we were influenced and possibly the way in which we voted. And there was one party in charge both times, the same ones. I have a little suspicion myself. I want to be conspiratist here, but there seems to be some meddling going on with our democratic process. That same party is the one that tries to suppress the votes. It's the same party that overturned the Voting Rights Act. And I think that we need to take back the House and let the Democrats give voting rights back to the people.
So I think that, in terms of the voting machines, I'm not sure there's a real problem there. I think where we need to concentrate, is the social media. I think a lot of us are too reliant on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and that's where, you can clap that, that's where, the Russians had their influence on our election. And so, if we would go out there and be educated without relying on websites that we know nothing about, and get the real facts about the candidates and the issues that are out there, I think that having a more informed electorate would really help us to have better elections. The other thing you have to remember is that this last election, Pat Tebow received 2/3 of the votes in this district. Part of the reason he received 2/3 of the votes in this district is because two of the people running against me drew those lines. So if you want to see those folks, in the election in September, in August, or in the fall, in November, they might be there unless I get some support. So I'd like to see you guys back me in May. Thank you.
In my view, the greatest threat to our electoral process are the electronic scamming machines that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party has forced us to use. We need to get rid of those electronic voting machines and the paper ballot scanners that can be easily hacked. When I'm elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, I plan on sponsoring legislation to completely eliminate all the electronic voting machines, electronic scanning devices, electronic paper ballot counters, electronic anything associated with our electoral process. We don't need it. We are Americans. We can count our own votes. What I want to see happen start using paper ballots that are hand counted in a public forum that anyone and everyone can attend, just like this.
So we're down to our last question, and we have 18 minutes left. So we want to respect everybody's time. So I'm going to ask a question that's kind of a two-parter. You guys can pick what you want to answer. And Karen's going to give you like about a minute, 30, 45 seconds, but don't take the whole time if you don't need it. So the national spotlight is on this race. You all alluded to that. So what do you want to tell the country about the 12th district? And finally, if there are any pledges that you want to make about access, town halls, anything like that, now would be the perfect time to do that as well. And Jackie, I think you're starting with you.
So, the national light is on the 12th district, and we are being portrayed as a bellwether district. And what I would like to see is that for the first time in many years, that we elect a Democratic woman to represent us in the 12th congressional district. First one ever. This is the one represented in Congress, and we do a really good job reaching across the aisle and working for our families and our communities and the people of America.
I've had the pleasure to get to know Jackie just a little bit from the time that we've been doing this, and I really like her. I think if she were to win, I think she'd be awesome. I think that we're just good people. I mean, most of us are just really good people, whether you're from Johnstown, the country where I taught, or from Newark, or, the northern parts of Franklin County, Marion. I mean, we're a kind of a microcosm of everybody. Thanks, Republicans, for drawing a district that is America. I mean, it's good, it's okay. We can win it. I really believe that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been standing up here for, since I've been doing this since July, 8 months, talking to people. I feel like I'm the best candidate, or I wouldn't be out here doing it. Everything I do, I post online. I know this is posted online, but I post all my speeches and question and answer sessions online for everybody to see. I don't hide. I put it all out there. I think a big part of the problem is we have politicians, career politicians, who want to try and get elected. I want to save my kids. It's different. This is different for me. I'm not up here trying to get elected. I'm trying to save my children. That's the kind of politicians we need.
Well, the national spotlight, is it working? There we go. The national spotlight is going to be on this district. And I want to show people that Democrats can stand for something, that Democrats can win the right way, and we are going to lead by example. So in this campaign, I've sworn off corporate donations, and despite doing that, we have raised money person to person. We know how much it's going to take to win, and we are going to raise it. We have raised more money out of anybody who's filed in quarter four. So we're going to win this the right way, and we get a chance to show the nation that person-to-person grassroots politics is the brand of the Democratic Party, and we get to change that right here and right now, starting when we go hit doors tomorrow. So I'm excited for that. And then I'm excited to show the rest of the nation that we can campaign on what we believe in tough districts and win, because people respect honesty. Right? So we will go into the tough areas of this district and we will say, look, we're going to fight for single-payer health care because that's part of your benefits. Right? We're going to go out into this district and say we're going to support a national jobs program that's going to put people to work and put money in pockets and get community infrastructure out of that. We're going to stand on what we believe in and show the rest of the country that we can win back voters we've been losing for years if we run principled campaigns that are people-driven. And that's what we're going to do right here.
Thank you all for coming out here tonight, spending your time with us, investing your time. That's so important for our country, for the 12th. I want to thank you again, Indivisible. I just want to leave you with a few thoughts tonight. This is the bellwether. This is going to be the bellwether. It's going to be watched just like Alabama. It's going to be watched just like Georgia. So you guys, unfortunately, have a tough job. Okay? You have great candidates up here. And each one of us think that we can do the job. We would be set up here, like John says. He's right. The unfortunate fact is only one of us is going to make it through. And on the other side of that, they're going to face opposition like they've probably never seen before. It's going to be huge. Lots of money, lots of power, lots of attention. They're going to do everything in the world to push the Democrats back away from the 12. We haven't been there a long time. I feel obviously that I have the team, the people that can actually go against the Republicans that are going to bring all this money to the table. So I'm asking for your vote, obviously. But I'm asking tonight that you leave. Because I've got to know several people up here. You cannot not love this guy. He is awesome. I mean, and I've got to know John because I grew up on a farm. And I got to know, Jackie. So it's getting to know people all down and Ed. They're wonderful people. But I ask you to make sure you think who can win against the Republicans. Once the primary is over, who's got the experience and who's got the ability to actually stand up against them and take the fight to them. So that's what you got to be, smart Democrats. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
I also want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. This is an important race. We are at a crossroads in our country. Among the many challenges that we face, the biggest is getting our financial house in order so that we can repeal the Christmas tax gift to the wealthy and put the money back in the pockets of the middle class, the senior citizens, those who are on Medicaid, and provide universal health care for every man, woman, and child in this country, which is the right of every citizen. There is much that we need to do, but the first thing we have to do is restore fiscal responsibility and responsive governance in Congress. Thank you. I hope to do that.
I would like to say that I think the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And although that sounds kind of funny, the main thing is we need to take this seat back. It's been empty for 17 years. I would like to be your representative, and I will fight for you. I will use ideas that I have. Frankly, I'll use ideas that you guys have. I like these people up here. I even like my new friend, the Republican next to me. And Joe, who met me on the campaign trail last year. You know what I like about tonight? It's been civil. It's been instructional. Been a lot of good ideas. And I really like the fact that all of you stayed the whole time and listened to us. It's a long time to sit and listen. With your help, your energy, you're the guys that knocked on the doors. You're the guys that got the petitions signed. You're the guys that showed up at these meetings. Sarah and Mia, you put this group together. This is our army. We're going to take this army. We're going to take this seat. We're going to take our Congress. We're going to take the country. And we're going to make it work for us. I'd like your vote, but if I don't get it, just remember this. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, so appreciate the opportunity to come out here and speak with you tonight. If you don't know who Carol O'Brien is, she was endorsed by the Delaware County Republican Party. If you don't know who Kevin Bacon is, he was endorsed by the Franklin County Republican Party. Troy Balderson, Muskingum County Republican Party. Are those the people that you want representing you? This is an uphill battle for the Democrats. It really is, I'm sorry to say. I would like to be the person, the Republican, that takes this seat and that is able to walk across the aisle and recognize that everyone in this district should have a voice. And so I'm asking for your support in May, also in August and November, but particularly unless you want one of those career politicians or Washington insiders to win the seat, I'm looking for your support. Thank you.
The thing I'd like to point out to everybody is that I'm a lot different than everybody else here. Everyone here is either a Democrat or Republican on this panel, and I am not. I'm a member of the Green Party of the United States, and I've been a member since I first voted for Green Party presidential candidate Ralph Nader in 1996. I've never voted for another Democrat or Republican since then, because the Democratic and Republican parties do not represent the American people, in my view. Thank you. Sure. The Green Party of the United States has a political platform based upon peace, diplomacy, and nonviolence. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party have platforms based upon war and increasing the corporate profits of the multinational corporations that finance and manufacture the weapons of war. And the multinational oil corporations that go in and steal the oil from the sovereign nations that the United States occupies. We got to put a stop to this. In 2015, the United States dropped more than 23,000 bombs on foreign sovereign nations in 2015. 2016, more than 26,000 American bombs fell down on sovereign nations. Americans are murdering innocent children and civilians all over. We got to put a stop to this. And that's what the Green Party wants to do. We want to do it by implementing a massive solar and wind power technology all across the United States to make the wars for all obsolete.
Well, thank you all again for being here tonight, and thank you to Sarah for moderating. I know it's natural for a law professor to do this type of stuff. Thank you to Mia for organizing Indivisible. It's interesting to think back to where we were as a country a year ago. I think about, there was a Jefferson Jackson banquet in 2005 that I spoke at when I was a senior in high school. And I turned 18 the day after the presidential election in 2004, which was just absolutely bitter. So the first thing I did that morning, I watched John Kerry concede the election, and then I went down to the Board of Elections, and I registered to vote. And I remember in 2005, at the JJ dinner, I introduced a guy named Michael Coleman, our former mayor. Great mayor. And I remember saying to that crowd, I think I was 18 years old, I said, this next election, we have to put our blood, sweat, and tears into this race, because this is the most important midterm of our lifetimes. Of course, I was 18, and folks said, well, we've seen a lot more midterms than you. But here we are again. We have a midterm that somehow surpassed that. And that's what we're fighting for, because the eyes of the nation are going to be on this special election. We know that. And this special election is an opportunity to send a message about where Ohio is and about where this country is. Because we all want what's right for our country. We want a country that's fair, that works for everyone, that provides health care for everyone, that gives everybody a shot at the American dream. I can win this race. I've never lost an election. I went 2-0 in 2016, and I won because of family members like my Uncle Buzz, who's here, who was out knocking on the doors today in Delaware, like my mom, who will be camped out at early vote, like every single O'Connor, there's a lot of us, as you might imagine by my name, who will be all over this entire district talking about why we need to turn this country around. Thank you, sir.
Collected your thoughts and want to share them with Senator Portman about any issue like DACA, gun violence, anything like that. We still have postcards in the back that you can fill out, and we'll drop them off at his office. And then the next thing is I want to talk to you about the election. And I need everybody in this audience to raise your right hand. And I want you all to promise me that you're going to vote in May. Right? And then I want you all to find 5 people and get them to promise to vote in that special election in May. It's really important. I don't care who those 5 people are. Anybody. And if you want to make that commitment public, we have a Commit to Vote event on our Facebook page that you can commit to vote and then invite other people to take. Again, we're a nonpartisan organization. I asked my Republican parents today who are on Facebook to commit to vote, and they agreed to do that. So it's a nonpartisan issue. But that being said, I want to practice one thing before we go. How many of you guys have been to a sporting event of any kind? Okay, so you guys know how to do the wave? Right? Okay, so I want to start on this end, and I want to practice a wave that maybe we'll do at some point this fall. So